Welcome back to Precious Metal Gents. This is episode 8. I am Zan here with my co-host Brian. Today is the Ray Allen episode. We have Sal at Sal Has Cool Cards. He will be coming on later in the episode to talk us through everything in his collection and talk about all things Ray Allen. So we're going to keep it a little bit brief going into that because you guys don't want to hear us talk too much. So um, mail day, I don't have anything new, Brian. Do you have anything?
No, I got a couple of little cards for some little brewer sets and projects I'm working on, but nothing significant.
Nothing that we're going to bore you guys with. So we're going to actually go straight into the card of the week showcase and get right to the point here. The card that we selected this week in honor of Sal coming on was a basketball card. It was the 1999 Flair Showcase Legacy 2000 Shaquille O'Neal PSA 10, numbered to 20. Sales price was $19,800. The only prior sale on the card was August 2015 for $172. So that's quite an ROI if you bought one back then. I looked into some of these other sales on this card, and as you can imagine, these legacies, since they're numbered out of 20, it's 99 in basketball, it's 2000 in baseball and football. The only higher sale that I could find was a Tom Brady rookie, which was back in October 2021. And I don't know what happened here, but in that it was a BGS 8 that sold for 157,000, and then it sold again as a BGS 8.5 2 months later for only just under 20 grand. Uh, I don't know, Brian. Do you make anything of that? What do you think happened there? Why did it go for like a tenth of what it did 2 months earlier?
I mean, I couldn't even begin to speculate. I mean, it's just like it's one of those things where you find I don't know, was the listing weird? I mean, what
No, I think they were both. I think they were both on an auction house. I wonder if it was where two guys just got in this bidding war, and they're like, "We're never going to see this card again." And the second place guy was relieved when 2 months later came up in a higher grade and he got it for under 20 grand. And so all the sales, honestly, at the top in the top five, all of them are Brady except for this Shaq. And we've seen some pretty impressive sales on Shaq cards recently, but we've talked a little bit about 2000 Legacy in the past few episodes. So, did you think anything about this sale as far as perhaps it's like reverberating impact or downhill impact for baseball and football, and what that may mean for some of the bigger stars in those sports?
I think it's well, there are two things. I think that set's becoming more popular in general. It's a great looking set we've talked about before. So I think there's a trickle down effect with that where more people are going to start buying those, but that's really with like any of the 90s low numbered sets. I just think it like, it's this one month or every, couple of months. And then in a few months, it's going to be another set as people start to discover the low numbered 90s stuff. If it's got great aesthetics, it's gonna continue to rise in my opinion because as these cards get locked up in collections, there's plenty of people that want them, and there's not enough cards to go around, not even close. Because most of these sets they don't have all 20 available. Like they're just not. They're not there, especially a 2000 set or a 99 set, depending on what sport. The other thing is too is that you mentioned like the Shaq cards going up, and I think for so long people have been talking about Shaq's underrated, Shaq's undervalued, Shaq prices are down. So what is the next thing that's probably going to happen with that? Well, some people are going to start buying his cards thinking that they're undervalued. As they start doing that, you start seeing the sales, and it's a cyclical thing. And you're going to have that continuously with these 90s players and sets. People are going to start discovering sets. They're going to start discovering the value in players, buying them. You got team collector crossovers, you got set collector crossovers, player runs. I mean, it's really never ending in my opinion.
I like the way you put it with uh, these, maybe I don't know, call them lesser known, but you see this trend towards people buying the obvious stuff, the PMGs, the rubies. And so when those become too exorbitantly expensive for collectors, then they pivot and they look for these sets that have low number parallels, that are nice looking, that not everyone's buying. And then you get a sale like this, and now, because these sell so infrequently, every dealer with a basketball legacy is going to be leveraging this sale. Be like, well, Shaq's worth 20, Barkley's worth 20, or something like that, or Barkley's worth 15, or whatever it may be. And to kind of give you guys a comparison of what it's like in with respect to other sports, or I guess in relation to other sports, it's pretty similar as you would imagine basketball to baseball ratio would be. So back in 2023, a Griffey sold for actually two sold in summer 2023. One sold in June, BGS 8.5 for $5,500. And then it sold again in a BGS 9 a month later for $3,800. So it's kind of like that Brady effect we talked about earlier, where that first one that comes to market is the big sale because people are thinking, well, I'll never see it again. And then, of course, a month later, someone puts it up because they see that prior sale and they want to make some money. Bonds, same deal. PSA 9 back in September for $3,750. So you could see they're floating in that $3,000 to $5,000 range for the top baseball players. The second highest basketball sale I could find was a Penny Hardaway PSA 10, but that was back in 2019 and went for $1,100. I think earlier this year, a Larry Hughes sold for like close to 1,000, like 800 to 1,000. So you can see even the smaller guys are on their way up as this set evolves and its popularity. So I'd be interested to see what collectors might pivot to now in the face of these legacy sales. I think Brian and I have our ideas, but we're not going to tell anyone.
Well, then you also can reference my $11 Jeff Jenkins purchase from last month too. So I mean,
That's
that
true.
I set the Brewers market with that one.
Well, that could be worth $1,000 now. I mean,
Right.
it's
Yeah, with the multipliers, I mean, it's going to keep
yeah.
going up.
I
So
think that's only fair. Well, let's
investment.
jump into listener. Yeah, exactly. Let's jump into listener questions so that we can get to our main segment. Funny enough, the first question comes from Sal Has Cool Cards, and he wants to know: did you ever pull anything particularly memorable from boxes or packs as a kid?
The biggest card that I pulled as a kid, I've mentioned it on here before, was the '97 Metal Universe Red PMG of Keyshawn Johnson, and I immediately traded in towards another box of the same product and got nothing, got dusted. So that was my my memorable childhood purchase. I spent a lot of time ripping junk wax. I wasn't really buying the best of stuff. I talked about on here, I would go with like a set amount of dollars, hobby dollars to card shows given to me from my dad, or I'd collect like birthday money or things like that in the early to mid 90s. And I wasn't really getting anything. And then the late 90s, I was buying the wrong product. So I just wasn't getting any of the better stuff. Looking back, I wish I would have ripped better things. But when I did rip a Metal Universe box, the first one I did, I got the red PMG. So I was pretty excited about that.
Yeah, that's a good one. Funny enough, I have two, one of which was a BMG actually. 1998 Metal Universe. I had a Jeff Kent Precious Metal Gems that actually, when I was getting back into the 90s, I went to look at my binders and I had put that base set together, and sitting at the end of the set was a Jeff Kent PMG, and I didn't think twice about it when I pulled it. I was like, this is funny looking, and so I put it in the binder, and unfortunately I sold it maybe a couple years ago after I found it, because I kind of wish I hadn't, but at the same time, I'm not a Kent collector. I should have kept it for the memories, but I have enough other cards for the memories, so I'm not too broken up about it. The other one was a '97 Pinnacle. It's kind of an odd one. Paul Molitor cyan press plate, one of one. And so, the press plates, there's four of them. But I remember pulling it, and I didn't know what a printing plate was. So my dad and I were freaking out that there was a metal card. in the cardboard in this pack of otherwise cardboard cards. So I think I actually still have that Molitor. And of course, when I got back, I was like, I wonder if this is worth anything. And of course, press plates are not worth much at all. So that one's still sitting around up in the box that I have from when I was a kid.
Next question is for you. At Perimeter Collectibles asks, which baseball player, past or present, would also make the best cricket player?
It's interesting. This one caused me to look up. I mean, I know what cricket is, but I was trying to find out what attributes make an optimal cricket player, but I couldn't find a digestible treatise on cricket prospects. So I think it's someone who has to be athletic and strong, fast, blah blah blah. But like we talked about a minute ago off air, they got to be able to hit the ball off the ground. And so I feel like Perimeter Collectibles teed this up for me to say Vlad Guerrero Sr. because he was always hitting balls that bounced in the dirt. And I think I remember him one time hitting a pitcher tried to pitch out and he hit it into right field. So the guy would just swing at everything. And so I imagine if he had a cricket bat, which obviously has more surface area, that he could do some serious damage in the sport. Who is your pick?
I vaguely remembered Nick Ahmed doing this last year, and I had to look it up again and check because I was, questioning my memory at the time. But he did actually hit a ball off the ground. I don't know I can't remember if he got a hit or not, but I guess that would be my pick because it would have to be someone, that who's done it or someone that could do it. I could see Vlad do it because he had insane plate coverage, and I mean, it felt like he could hit anything if he wanted. Anybody with an uppercut swing. Griffey probably could if he wanted to.
Yeah, that's probably true. That might be the only time that Nick Ahmed gets mentioned on this podcast, but
it will be for me. I can promise you that.
Yeah. Unless we bring on a Nick Ahmed collector, then maybe we'll have to talk about it a little bit more. All right, this one is from Danny at Modest Card Collection. He wants to break the fourth wall and asks, how long have you guys known each other prior to the podcast, and how quickly did the idea of doing one come together?
Well, I said this before, I think, a couple of shows, but I messaged you trying to get your 99 PMG Favre away from you. I don't know. I can't remember if I was trying to trade you for stuff or what. I probably seemed like a jerk. But I was at work bored one day and I was just searching for Favre PMGs, and your card came up. So I'm like, message this guy, see what I can do. And then we started talking about Favre collecting. And then you're like, are you going to the National? And it turned into all sorts of stuff. I'm like, wow, there's another Favre collector. So I kept you close so I could maybe get the card from you. Still haven't sent it to me yet. But.
Ulterior motives. Yeah, I think that was how it started. I had like just gotten it to. I was like, this asshole, he's like trying to get it from me already. Yeah, but then we became friends, and weirdly enough, we actually both were talking earlier this year about podcast ideas and kind of actually in separate but individual podcasts, and throwing out some ideas. And I think we like some of the podcasts that are out there, and they have their own distinct style, and we kind of wanted to offer something a little different, focused on this particular niche. And there's obviously some guys, collectors, that we wanted to have on that haven't been on those shows, and so we just said let's try it out and see how it goes. And I think that was a smart move. People seem to like the 2-person format. Okay. All right, let's get into the main segment. So without further ado, here is our friend Sal talking about Ray Allen cards. All right, now joining us, we have Alex, a.k.a. Sal, don't call me Palantonio, here on the podcast to talk a little Ray Allen cards. Sal, how are you doing, my friend?
I'm good. Excited to talk some 90s cards with you guys and be an honorary precious metal gent today. So thanks for having me on. Looking forward to it.
Thank you, thank you. And you and I got had the pleasure of meeting each other last summer. I've stayed in contact since then, and I've always admired your collecting. And so I guess that's a good place for us to start the conversation, is to talk a little bit about when you started collecting, and I'm assuming it was back when you were a kid, and tell us about just that chronology and whether you took any breaks or gaps during that time as well.
Sure. Yeah, yeah. So I remember I got a couple random packs from my parents in 1995. I think it was a collector's choice football, nothing fancy or anything, but they noticed that I was really drawn to the cards that I had pulled, and I just kept looking at them and talking about them over the next few months. They also knew that I wasn't necessarily the most avid reader. I didn't enjoy reading as a kid, so I think my mom kind of saw an opportunity to maybe incentivize me, start reading more. So I remember reading James and the Giant Peach and being rewarded with 5 packs of 1996 Fleer Ultra basketball. And then from there it was game over. Every bit of, modest allowance I was given, any cash that I got for birthdays or Christmas, every dollar that I earned mowing the lawn or doing other odd jobs for my family or around the neighborhood, I would save that up for cards. And almost always at that time, it was boxes and packs. And I remember, I'd go to summer camp for a month at a time. My dad was nervous I'd be homesick, so he'd send me packs in the mail to open up, and that's how we stayed connected for that month while I was away. So that was really fun. So I really got into the hobby from 1996 through about 2000 there, which of course is a very fortunate time because it's really kind of the golden age for 90s cards. You guys have started a podcast about it. So I would say I kind of slowed down a bit in the coming years after 2000. So that was around, high school and college for me, different priorities, things happening in life. Randomly, I'd, pick up things off of eBay here and there, buy some cool singles or a box of a set that I was looking forward to coming out. I picked it back up again after college in around 2010 for a few years. And that's when I started focusing more on singles. Paused for a few years when I went back to school again and money became a little tighter at that point. And then probably around 2015 is when I started to make some bigger singles purchases then, which you start to see on my Instagram page. So again, mostly boxes and packs as a kid. And then starting, I'll say around 2000, getting into a little bit of dabbling with singles and forming a collection of cards that I really always kind of wanted to pull from packs.
So you mentioned in the listener questions to ask us whether we ever pulled anything that was memorable as a kid. You talk about these packs that you were getting when you were a kid. Did you ever pull anything memorable that you have to this day?
I did. Yeah. I've got a few here. So I'll talk about this first one. So this is the 1997. I don't know if you can see it that well there. Michael Jordan Finest Silver Embossed Refractor. So this is out of 263, copy number 81. But I remember my dad and I, we were at a local card shop right when the set was coming out. I think it was probably early 98. And at that point, we had really only bought individual packs, and we kind of were asking the local card shop owner what more interesting products are coming out. We maybe want to try a box. And so we got a box of this Finest at his recommendation. Took it home, ripped it. This was in it. Had no idea what it was when we first opened it up. Pulled out the Beckett and noticed that I think it was $400 when the set first came out, and our minds were just blown. And so from there, it was I was completely hooked, into the hobby. Now I've got this really cool, amazing card, and I kept it raw for 15 years or whatever. So anyway, 1 or 2 years later, after that, we're getting into boxes a little bit more, and we thought we'd try our luck with that set again. And I remember seeing there was a seller on eBay who must have had a few cases. There were 24 of these jumbo box listings from that same set. So Series 2, 97 Finest basketball. And so by then, this was, my brother was he's 6 years younger than me, so he didn't really get to appreciate the MJ at first. So we got the box in hand, and those jumbo boxes had 12 packs. So we split up the 12 packs, each took 4, and then my brother ripped this in, I think it was his 3rd pack, which is the Kobe gold embossed refractor out of 74. Again, I wish I had a brighter camera with me so you could really kind of see the effect of it. But at that point, we knew what we were looking for. So when we saw this, I mean, I remember dropping to my knees and just like, took my breath away. Couldn't believe that we had pulled that, much less, both the MJ and the Kobe from the same product. So just a really incredible set of core memories for me when it comes to collecting.
Did you, because you got the silver before that, did you know like what you had with the Kobe? I mean, did you know the difference at the time, like with the gold? You knew what
definitely,
you were
looking
for? Okay.
Yeah, we knew what we had in that moment. I think my brother was probably a little, he was only, I want to say he was 6 or 7 when we pulled that. So he didn't really have as much of a sense of what it was until we pulled out the Beckett. I think that was originally the high value in the Beckett was 900 at that time, and it's only grown since then. So these 2 cards are really important centerpieces in my collection, I would say. I don't see them ever going anywhere. Obviously, it's unfortunate. I know you guys have talked about the greening with these, and I've had opportunities to pick up another MJ with better color. I've turned it down. There's no way that I could ever, actually move on from this exact copy. I just am too partial to the serial numbers and what they mean to my collection.
So you're proof that greening does come from, I mean, you didn't have those things sitting in light. You're proof, you're living proof that greening comes from the effect of the inks on and the dyes on the card.
So I did have them in a display up on my wall in my room for probably 10 or 15 years. And in hindsight, probably was not the best idea. So that's definitely, a possibility for contributing some greening to those. So, but I remember seeing somebody on Facebook a few years ago. He had pulled a Charles Barkley gold embossed refractor, and it was sickly green right from the get-go. So I think, that was evidence right there. That would have been sealed in a pack for 20 years or whatever, and it was still green out of the pack.
So you've had those for, over 24 years now. How close have you gotten to selling either one of them? Have there been times where you were perilously close, or was it always just, these are never going anywhere?
It's the latter. They've never been going anywhere. My dad and I have kind of tracked the values of them. I'll send my brother and my dad the listings when one comes up for sale, and we just kind of watch it end. But there's never been a time where I've realistically considered selling these.
That's awesome, man. That's a great story. And so you've told us a little bit about obviously Kobe and MJ, but neither of those guys are really your PC focus. So tell us a little bit about when you first started becoming interested in collecting Ray Allen, and maybe what drew you into that.
Yeah, so I think it just goes back to how I became a Bucks and a Ray Allen fan in general. I was born and raised in Milwaukee, but my dad spent much of his life in Illinois. So he was actually a big Bulls and Bears fan at the time. So that meant that I was too. So my earliest memories as a basketball fan are actually watching MJ and the Bulls with my dad in our basement. And this was kind of throughout their second three-peat, kind of the first memories I was able to have of basketball. So when MJ retired, the Bulls, they stunk immediately, right? So there was kind of this empty void where I wasn't a fan of any team really, and I loved basketball. And kind of around that time, we had a neighbor and family friend who used to work for the Bucks, and I think he convinced my dad that the Bucks were a pretty young and fun, exciting team. So we started going to some of the games in I think it was the 98-99 season. And then my dad purchased season tickets for the following season. So that was 99-2000. So it was off and running at that point in terms of my passion for the Bucks, hooked to them for life. So they had Ray Allen, Glenn Robinson, Vin Baker, a few other guys, eventually became Sam Cassell, the big three that maybe some basketball fans from around that generation would remember. But they had, actually some really decent young players. They just couldn't put together a winning season until 2000, 2001. I think many fans remember Ray Allen from his time in Boston and Miami when he was such a great 3-point shooter, hit a ton of massive and clutch shots in the playoffs, like we all know. But people forget that in his early days, he was such a well-rounded and exciting player. He could attack the rack. He was lethal from three. He's throwing down reverse dunks in traffic. I would highly recommend anybody listening to this podcast to go check out some Ray Allen highlights from his early Bucks days, because he was a special player, not just a 3-point shooter. So I like the way that he played. He had a good charisma about him, and just a calm presence on the court, and just that excitement that he brought to the city of Milwaukee. Bucks lost to the Pacers in a couple of the seasons in the late 90s in the playoffs. But anyway, the Bucks had a great year in 2000, 2001 and went on to the Eastern Conference Finals against Philly. And that was probably like the pinnacle of my Bucks fanhood as a child. I think some basketball fans might remember that as maybe the second most rigged series of all time, right behind that 2002 Kings-Lakers series.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. NBA didn't want to see a finals matchup with the Lakers in small town Milwaukee. But yeah, as far as how I got into Ray Allen cards, I had some of the, cool lower to mid end stuff of Ray Allen during that time. Inserts that were, 1 in 24, 1 in 96 packs. But I didn't really start making any bigger Ray Allen purchases until the late 2010s, which is, when I could start to afford it and justify it. But it's all that nostalgia growing up, cheering for him and the Bucks, and just collecting with my dad and my brother during that time that keeps me coming back to cards and allows me to connect with that time in my life. It's and has made this huge hobby for me. So yeah, I didn't really start getting into his bigger cards until I would say the last 5 to 7 years or so.
So, I mean, in a little bit, we're going to get into some of the cards that you have, and people listening are going to see that, this is actually a really big collection. But there's other Bucks that you collect too. And then you also focus on team sets and things like that. How do you approach that team set collecting, that parallel, the Ray Allen run, and then like the player runs for the other parts of your PC?
Yeah, at one point I wanted every great 90s insert of every Buck. When the pandemic hit, that dream took a little bit of a hit, I should say. So over the years, I was collecting PMGs of guys like and rubies of guys like Tyrone Hill and Irvin Johnson, Terrell Brandon, and a couple other lesser known Bucks. I was trying to grab like a Sherman Douglas red PMG. It just became Tractor Trailer too. I had some of his stuff. Yeah, I recently been trying to consolidate that collection a little bit, just to allow me to get into some other Ray Allen cards, which I can talk about in a little bit here. But yeah, it just became too much, too difficult to manage, going after everything for every player. So at this point, I would say I'm really trying to narrow it down to Ray Allen, a pretty decent Glenn Robinson PC, and Sam Cassell, and then maybe just a couple, random miscellaneous inserts that I enjoy having in my PC. They might not be worth a ton of money, but ones that I like. In general, I focus on those PMGs, credentials, rubies, 90s UD game jerseys are really cool. Ray Allen's got one. Robert Traylor has one, which I have in a PSA 9. Some of the late 90s finest gold refractors, numbered to 100. I know you guys have talked about those on your podcast. Atomic refractors, I think those are just some of the most killer looking inserts. 97 and 98. Across all sports, really, they're just phenomenal looking cards. I really like the shiny stuff. You can't tell, so that's what I'm drawn to most. But yeah, one set. I'll kind of go into the Packers for a little moment here. But one set I'm trying to put together is the full Packers PMG run from the 90s. I'm down to 3 to go. So if it's those 98s that are giving me a hard time right now. So I need the 98 Reggie White, which is gonna force my hand in some ways with my collection elsewhere. Mark Chimura, I cannot find a Mark Chimura for whatever reason, and the Dorsey Levens checklist. So Brian, I'm pretty sure that I'll be fighting you off for maybe one or two or maybe all of those there.
Well, actually, I'm not going to go that deep into the 98 because I've just, I want the Favre and the Freeman eventually, but I've just accepted the fact that unless it falls into my lap, like there's just too much competition with the 98s right now that I don't think I'll be able to complete the team set. I'd like to do obviously the 97 I'm going to do. And then I'd like to maybe see how many 99s I can get whenever I can get, some players out of there too. But I'm behind you and some others that are really going to be fighting for these to complete the sets. And then as people like yourself get closer to completing sets, you're willing to, go after them harder than I even would, or like people that are newly getting into the set. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, it's tough competition, but, you and I started speaking.
Worry about.
Yeah. Well, I mean, things change too. You never know. Like
that's fair.
But you and I started talking basically surrounding Packers cards, and then I think it was like it was last year or something, and then I got into the Packers group with you and some others. But how do you balance? I always have a tough time with this too because I wanted to collect Bucks, but they're like third on they're actually fourth really. I mean, because I collect some of the Gators stuff too, but they're like third or fourth on my hierarchy of teams, and I just can't be spread that thin. How do you balance like collecting the Packers when a big card comes up, or even if it's not a huge card that comes up, just like what you're searching for with like your basketball PC, and then like even your other ones? Like, how do you balance all that stuff and prioritize it?
Yeah, it's so tough to do that, and that's such a good question. In general, I kind of in my brain, I know one or two cards for probably every player. If something comes up, if one of those two cards comes up, I'm gonna want to make a move on it. And so I have, I would say I probably have half a dozen, maybe 10 cards that I could probably move pretty quickly to move into some of those cards if they were to get listed. But yeah, I mean, when I first got into singles around 2020, I was only going after MJs, up until that point. So specifically refractor. So that's really all I cared about and looked for when I went to shows and shop eBay and so on. But as the years went on, just to kind of, I guess, start by talking about MJ here, he only continued to get more expensive. And so I started entering periods of my life where I couldn't spend a lot of money on cards, still had the itch. So that's kind of how I started finding opportunities to grab cooler cards of really any and all Bucks and Packers players I grew up watching. And sometimes that included inserts that eventually made it big. I think I was fortunate to get into some of these inserts well before any sort of boom hit. Definitely. This was, I guess, back in 2012 or 2013 when I first picked up my first PMG, which was Andre Rison, red PMG. I think I picked it up for about $25, and I thought it was crazy spending $25 on an Andre Rison card. But I got it in hand, and I started looking for more of them. I remember I got the Reggie White one for $75 in a BGS 9. It was about 10 or 11 years ago, and Dorsey Levens for $40. So, as I built up those team PCs, that really kind of became the showcase of my collection and what I enjoy collecting. So I felt almost compelled to finish some of these sets and continuing to still work towards some of them.
Do you have any plans to, so you have all the 97 red and then 99 PMGs of the Packers, is that right?
That's correct. Yep.
Okay. Do you plan to try to make a run for the greens or no?
No, I have some of the backdoor greens, and I think that's enough for me. If I realistically went after any of the greens, I wouldn't want to just get one. I'd want to get them all, and then at that point, I'm probably having some serious conversations with my wife about our marriage and the state of it. So I'm comfortable with that the backdoor green copies that I have. I can pull them out, look at them, appreciate them. But what's in the cards for me, pun intended, I guess, is the reds. Those are the ones I can manage with resources I have available.
Well, yeah, that makes sense to me. The greens, putting together a team set of greens now would be damn near impossible. Just
Yeah.
if you want the real ones, especially if you've got a guy like Farvin's set, and then there's intense competition among the other Packers collectors for those cards.
And then you got the Reggie too, which kills some of the Packer sets, having the two big Hall of Famers in there where they're pretty expensive. That's what's really tough
Yeah.
about every Packer set.
And then you get into the basketball side of it, and it's 5x, 10x compared to what you see for some of the other common to common players, right?
Right. And I was thinking about the Ray Allen green PMG is incredible card because that's on that one. He's wearing it's got the green on the jersey, right? He's got the purple jersey with the
Yeah.
green letters, right? So it's kind of a little bit of a match there.
Terrific color match on that one for sure. Yeah, that's a dream card. If I were to go after any green, it would be the Ray Allen one over any of the Packers. But honestly, great color matches, Packers and Bucks.
Yeah, that's true. They are two perfect teams to have color matches. Well, I'm a genius, and so I was segueing into our next question, which is going to be about Ray Allen's top 5 overall cards. Brian and I did this on the Favre episode, obviously with Ryan. This is an instance where we want to hear your top 5, and then we also came up with our amateur lists of top 5 that we'll compare to yours and see how many we got right. So I guess let's do it like we did with Ryan, where you kind of give us your number 1 and maybe explain briefly why it's your number 1, and we'll go from there. And these aren't cards you have to own; they can just be any Ray Allen card out there, including a 1 of 1 if you want.
Sure. Yeah, as I was giving some thought to this, I really put aesthetics, scarcity, and just general hobby desirability at kind of the forefront of my thought process with this. So the number 1 card that I have on my list here is the 98 PMG Gem Masters 1 of 1. That card I have asked around for years over Instagram, Facebook. Nobody knows where it is. It may not be pulled. Could be in sealed wax somewhere. Could be in a childhood collection that's been lost, forgotten about, or still stored away somewhere deep in a closet. But it's a great mystery where that card is. So I've kind of started an exercise. I'm trying to keep track of and take an inventory of all of the Gem Masters that have been pulled from that set, because I have 2 sealed boxes of 98 Metal Universe, and just imagine all the time if the Ray Allen is in one of those 2 boxes. That would be incredible. I have to I have to resist the temptation to open those all the time.
If you do open those and pull those, we have to have you come back on again when you ask the question, what's a great childhood card that you've pulled? Because
right,
it's going to supersede everything.
Blow everything away. Yeah.
Well, that's a great pick. I mean, it's very difficult to argue with that. I actually did not put that number 1. I put the green PMG number 1 on the list, and I don't know what I would want more if I were an Allen collector, because it's hard to put myself in those shoes because obviously I'm not a big basketball collector. I think I'd probably take the Gym Masters, but I also was trying to, I guess, factor in a little bit about what the market thinks to some degree. And I don't understand why greens, like the green Duncan outsells the Duncan Gem Masters from 98, which was 120 grand or whatever it went for. The Pippen, same thing. Green Pippen outsold the 98 Gem Masters Pippen as well. So I'm not sure why that is. I guess obviously the 97, 98, 97, 98 red and greens are kind of the iconic basketball card, thanks to Michael and Kobe. So green was the number 1 on my list. What about you, Brian?
I had the Gem Masters on mine as well, just because I think it was mainly because it was a 101, and there weren't as many 101s in basketball during that era as like when we talked about the Favre hierarchy. I just feel like that's a key card I didn't know that I didn't really look into it as much as obviously Sal knows about it. I didn't know that it was never found. I just know it's a really cool looking card, and you know that I love the 99 set too. So it was an easy pick at number 1 for me. But, you know, it's close with other ones.
Yeah. I put it at 2, so that's spoiler alert there. What did you have at 2, Sal?
I had the 97 green PMG at number 2. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean,
the same with me. Yeah.
Yeah. I think those are, in any way, whatever your personal preference is, those have to be the top 2. I think I'm sure most people would agree on that.
It's top 3, right? The green is, I think there's 3 copies I saw that were graded by PSA. So, I mean, it's pretty damn close to a 101.
Yeah, and I think some of them have been reportedly, some of the ones that are out there that are raw have been reportedly miscut or maybe even colored, and PSA won't grade them. So, you know, who knows how many more actually get PSA graded and authenticated.
What do you have at number 3?
So this is where it really starts to open up, I think. And you could talk me into probably 10 different cards at this point. And I went a little off the path here, I think, and I'm curious to get your thoughts on this. For number 3, I chose the 1999 Skybox Apex Extreme number. It's 1 of 1. And I don't know if either of you are familiar with it, because it's not I don't think it's in baseball or football, but it's an incredible looking card. It's got this kind of like almost quasi 97 rubies like effect to it with the amoeba sort of pattern, but it's a little bit more intricate and refined, and the shine on it is just out of this world. I got a chance to see, I think Grant Waldorf Stories had a Shaq at one of the shows that I went to, and I got a chance to see it in hand, and I was just mesmerized by it. So I'm interested to see where you guys take it with number 3, because I was, again, aesthetics was a big part of, where I was going with this. It's a 1 of 1, beautiful looking card. And I would probably drop almost any card in my collection, my Rayon collection, to go after that one.
That's an interesting choice. I like that. I always like when there's like a wrench thrown in, because that obviously wasn't on my radar. I'm familiar with the set because I know like the Warp Tech, and everything that's parallels. I think it was numbered to 25 or something like that. But yeah, the 101s, I have actually seen one of them, but it was not something in my head, because Apex is sort of one of those like peripheral sets, that doesn't really get mentioned with the big boys.
With that Apex, I think the Dirk is the only one that I've seen like an image of. It's got like a green background, doesn't it? It's almost like a color match. It's got like a white jersey on. He's either posting it up or he's going up for a layup, and it's got a green background or something. My number 3 pick was the 97-98 Ultra Masterpiece number 106, because he's got 2 of them in there. So I got 2 101s for the top 3. He's sitting on, I just like it. It's an image from when he was a rookie. So it's a non-rookie set, obviously, but it's an image from when he was a rookie, and he's sitting on the scoring table. I mean, I guess you either love it or you hate it, but I just love that first Ultra set in all sports. I think it's cool. And then, being a masterpiece, 101, again, there weren't a ton at that time. So that's my number 3.
Yeah, I know the image you're talking about on that one, and that one is a cool one. I don't actually have the platinum of that one. I'd like to add that one someday.
And he's got the 98. The thing with that set though too, why I kind of went back and forth like you did, so I could have put a few cards there. It's a 101, but he's got 2 101s in that set, because he's in the 98 greats. And there's some people probably that would argue that the 98 greats masterpiece image, or just even the platinum image, is better than him sitting on the scoring table. I just think it's an early, Ray Allen image. He's in his first 2 years. It's an image from his first year, and I think it's just iconic, really. I just think it's a really cool looking card.
Yeah, that way you guys make me look bad, because you both picked 1 of 1s, and I didn't pick a 1 of 1. But again, right, there's no absolute right answer, and this is largely influenced by personal preference, but also the legacy of the set. So I actually went with the 97 Credentials Now, which is numbered out of 33. Only one of those has sold. I mean, one sold back in March, I believe, but before that, as you know, Sal, it doesn't pop up that often than now. And there's something about the 97 now for the top players that, obviously for the guys that are number 10 and under, it's a huge deal. But the fact that Garnett and Jordan and Kobe are all in that, and Grant Hill are all in that first 10 has really propelled the set to a different height than any other sport and any other set in basketball. And so it's kind of like piggybacking off the prestige of that set to include this card. But, for me, I didn't get too deep into the one. I don't like it's not I dislike the Ultra Masterpieces, but I find them to be of, the 90, the one that Brian was referring to. The detailing is basically the same as the platinum medallion. So it's not something that was really on my radar. What do you think of my 97 now pick, Sal?
I love it. I made a run at that one that ended in March and came up way short. So I think I have to recalibrate, how much I may have to spend on that one when it becomes available. I love those lime green looking credentials and the future ones, the pink ones. I'll have more to say about those in a few minutes, but no objections putting that in there, the number to 33.
Phew. Okay, good. I'm glad I didn't I didn't draw any strenuous objections. What did you put for number 4, Sal?
So I went with another 99 one of one, and it actually was just posted on Instagram the other day. I don't know if you guys had a chance to see this, but it's the SPX Spectrum one of one. And that is, it's now in the collection of at J Ray, or sorry, I'm going to butcher his Instagram. Yeah, J Rays 3, I think it is. Sorry if I'm messing up your Instagram handle. But he's an overseas collector, huge Ray Allen guy. And the fact that it landed in his collection is awesome. I think he did a lot of work behind the scenes with another collector I know, another Ray Allen collector I know, to verify its authenticity. Because I know there's some backdoors that have made it out there. And people have tried to put fake stamps on those one of ones. And some of them have actually been graded. But this one I think it's been verified to be authentic. Incredible looking card. It's got a little bit of the radiance type of effect. And then it also kind of throws in, I want to see some videos. I've never seen one in hand, but I think it looks like it has almost some, kind of like the Gem Masters or Gold Rubies sort of effect to it.
So it's probably because of my football and baseball roots, but I went at number 4 with the 98-99 Fleer Brilliance 24 karat Ray Allen. I don't think it gets much love in the basketball collector space as it does in football and baseball for obvious reasons, that Jordan not being in it. But I think it's a really cool looking card. I remember the one that we talked about in our Packers group that came up in February that sold for, I was actually surprised. It was a raw copy, but sold for a little over $3,000. I was pretty surprised at that set. I thought it would actually go for a little bit more. But again, that set doesn't get as much love in basketball. I'm looking at this from the perspective, if I transitioned right now over to basketball and I was going to just collect Ray Allen, which is, if I did go to basketball, that's who I would collect. I would want that card as number 4.
I didn't have Fleer Brilliance on my radar when I was a kid. It's just not a product that I ripped. So I didn't really know much about it until the last few years when the 24 karat gold started to pick up. And now that I've seen a few in hand, I had a Vonnie Holiday Packers one that I ended up moving not too long ago. But now that I've seen it in hand, I want the Ray Allen. I'd love to add that one day.
I talked to a prominent card shop owner a couple weeks ago about Fleer Brilliance, and we were just talking about, and he's like, he had a shop in the mall at the time, in a bigger mall in Milwaukee, the biggest mall in Milwaukee, and he could not force people to buy that box of cards. For football, it sold a little bit better because it was Peyton Manning's rookie year, so people were buying anything 98. It didn't matter to get a Peyton Manning card, but that thing did not those sets did not sell for baseball and basketball, especially at all. I mean, he could not. They got destroyed, or he sent them back for They didn't move. He had boxes and boxes and boxes of those sets. No one, or those boxes and cases of them. So I mean, nobody bought that stuff.
Yeah,
That was a tough sell. I mean, as a one-off product, there's obviously no prior years to kind of build upon, and so there was also not the same pub that certified or the finest would get, or Flair Showcase. They weren't put out there as a premium product, right? They were a Fleer product, but Fleer had other products that would be ahead of it in line. And speaking of Fleer, my number 4, this is the one of one that you idiots didn't mention. It's the best one of one Ray Allen after the Gym Masters, which is the 98-99 Ultra Masterpiece, because Ray Allen's in a purple jersey going up for a layup. His name's in purple and the background's in purple. Okay, so that, to me, that's where I go, where the Ultra Masterpiece is worth it to me, when it's a noticeable change from the gold or the platinum medallion. So, I mean, obviously we have number 5 still left for you to talk about. But if this didn't make your list, was it even in consideration? And if not, how come?
So it was in consideration for me, and I agree with you. Great color match on that one. And he's in a Bucks jersey, action shot, as opposed to the 97 one, like you were talking about, Brian. Both great choices. But I ultimately, I'm just not a huge platinum guy, a legacy guy. So for me, I think I just bump him down a few spots just naturally. But I mean, that's a terrific one of one. Absolutely in my top 10, but I think, can I get into my number 5 here?
Please do. Yeah. Tell me what you got.
So I think for my number 5, I did want to throw in one Flair Showcase, which I think it's such a great looking product, even just the base cards, right? But the row, take your pick, row 0 or row 1 masterpiece, one of one from 97 Flair Showcase would make my list at number 5. And a close 6th, I guess, would be the red PMG. Such an iconic card. I think if you're a Ray Allen collector, you want to have that one. It's a great centerpiece of anybody's Ray Allen collection. So I know I just mentioned like 3 or 4 cards there, but let's say I like the row 1 effect with that shimmery kind of design. So I'll pick that one officially as my number 5. And I don't know if that one actually, I've never seen that one on Instagram. So that one could be another one that's buried in packs or boxes, collections, who knows?
And you've got the benefit of the vertical outlay, right? Or layout, I should say, on the row 1 versus the horizontal row 0. So
right.
It's got to be, it's got to be more enticing. Brian, what do you have at number 5?
Sal, don't take that as a cut on you. Zan was coming at me with the purple background thing, because when we did the Favre hierarchy, I was the one that said I'd rather have the 99 because the purple background and it's something different. So that's just a dig on me, but he's right. And just to clarify, the only reason I went with the 97 was because I think in basketball there was less masterpieces by that time. There was less 101s. It was a bigger card in the basketball market. So I have to take into account, like, if I'm going to collect him, I want to get the best in that market. Whereas with football, you already had the 101 masterpieces for the 97 Flair. And then you had it just was a different situation at that same time, just to clarify. But you're right. The purple background was awesome on that one. It is a great card. But I had for number 5, the 97-98 Essential Credentials, now out of 33. Love that card.
That's a good pick. Yeah, I initially had the red PMG, the 97 red, but then I was like, well, I've got the green on there, and I'm really putting the 97 on there. The red on there because it's iconic, but it's not my favorite to put at number 5. So I ended up putting the 97 Skybox Premium Star Rubies, not the Team Skybox, but the horizontal card where he's where he's making the move on Reggie Miller. I just think that's a great photograph. Now it does get a little bit of a point deduction for being horizontal.
Yeah, I was gonna say, weren't you just
vertical
bitching
cars.
about horizontal cards before, like a couple weeks ago?
But yeah, but I'm allowed to be inconsistent, not you. So,
what if it had what if it had a Mike Brooks label on the slab? Then would you?
It's Mike Baker to you. Yeah. Now maybe I would. I just really like this. Obviously, I love the Ruby's design, but that photograph for me sets it apart. The Team Skybox, I'm not a huge fan of. I mean, I guess the fact that one sells a little bit more regularly maybe dilutes the base version. Some people might say. I don't agree. I think it's a different color to me in the background. I think it's more silver than the base version is. But I had to get that one in there, and so I put the red is kind of an honorable mention along with the 98 credentials now, which I can't remember the print run of. You know that better than I do, but it's pretty limited, I think.
I think that one is 31, if I'm remembering correctly.
I think you're correct. Yeah, I think that sounds right. So Brian, did you have any honorable mentions on your list, or did you confine it to 5 like we asked?
No, I was gonna ask you guys, like, why do you think we did this without saying anything about the rubies? For me, it was, I think that the rubies, like the card being horizontal, it does maybe get a little bit of a point deduction out of the top 5, given the cards that like we all listed. Now I know Zan included it, but I love the rubies that you mentioned. The rubies in basketball, it's like a gold compared to like the 99 in football. It's like or a 98 in football. It's like a gold. I don't even know how you describe the background effect, but it's more gold than the silverish color in football and baseball. I love that look.
It's almost like a gold Gem Masters.
That's right.
It's really an incredible looking card. I mean, and that's 98 basketball series 1 has that gold Gem Masters effect. Series 2 is more aligned with kind of the 99 football and 99 baseball that you see out there. So that set is a really fun one, 98 basketball, because you kind of get both different types of rubies, which we've all come to kind of appreciate and love.
Yeah, love it. Well, so that's kind of like the idealized top 5 there. We weren't talking about anything not necessarily anything that you own, but I want to move it to your PC because this is about you and who you collect. So just give us kind of a brief rundown of your top 5 in your collection, and maybe just a brief explanation of why you have them ranked that way.
Sure. Start with number 1 or number 5?
Start with number 5. Keep the suspense here.
All right. So number 5, I've got the 98 gold PMG.
Beautiful.
Well, this is a really cool one. I acquired it from the collector who pack pulled it back when the set first came out. So I know the exact local card shop. I've got it in my notes somewhere. I don't remember off the top of my head, but it's from a small shop somewhere in Texas. The guy pulled it. Didn't quite know what he had. Obviously knew what he had when he sold it to me, maybe 3-4 years ago. Kept it raw for a while and then graded it at last year's national and was really, really pumped about the 8. I mean, these are tough grades. So it looked like it was in decent shape. Happy that it got an 8, but the gold PMG effect on these is really, I mean, it's almost like a refractor on steroids. They're just really great. And I think that, Ray's action shot there is a really cool one. Kind of highlights what I was talking about earlier about him being a player who could actually slash and get to the basket in his younger days. And I think that the purple jersey really does stand out there on this card. So just really, really like this card. That one's probably not going anywhere anytime soon. Number 4, I've got the 98 Star Rubies. So this one's the one numbered out of 50. It's horizontal. Sorry, guys.
Put it away.
Yeah. Forget about this one. But for me, I actually I don't mind this one being horizontal so much, just because of how incredible the effect is. So it actually, when you get a horizontal player, you get more of the background effect there. So it's just with Ray Allen's card, specifically in this set, you get to appreciate what the card has to offer. So I actually picked this one up from another big Ray Allen collector, Carmelo Syracuse, a couple months ago, and he worked a nice deal with me, and I was really excited to get this one. This will probably forever be in my top 5 of Ray Allen cards, just because, like we talked about, the gold Gem Masters effect kind of is just really neat. So love that one. Number 3, I've got the 97 championship PMG. So basketball is 97 for this. This is a really cool story how I got this card. Actually, this was I think it was September of 2021. So pretty much peak COVID. My wife and I were just watching TV show on like a Tuesday night, and I got a random message from some guy. I didn't recognize his Instagram account. It's like his personal account, and he tells me that he's got a Ray Allen precious metal gems that I might be interested in. I said, "Oh yeah, can you send me some pictures?" And he sends me the pictures of this, and it was raw at the time, and I'm just like amazed, right? I mean, this is the last, at this time, it was the last Ray Allen PMG I was hoping to get to complete the trio, and so I knew I had to make moves pretty quickly. We were in talks for about, I don't know, maybe 30 minutes, 60 minutes. And then I saw overnight, I woke up the next morning, I saw overnight he listed it on eBay. So I messaged him right away. I was like, "Hey, what price do you need to get this off of eBay?" And, he sent me a message within a few minutes, and he pulled it down right away. So I said, "Okay, let's move forward." So I had to lock that one down. This is actually not that copy though. I graded that copy last year and it got a PSA 8. And I had an opportunity to trade down into a 7. And I took that opportunity actually so that I could get into the number 4 card here on my list. So that really helped me get into to the 98 rubies. And I have no regrets about it. Apparently this card is also formerly a BGS 8.5. So I'm not, too devastated by the 1 point blow here on the PSA registry.
But real quick, but that explains a lot, because as I was looking at that, didn't you grade the 8 at the National last year?
I did. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. That's right. I remember you showing me that when you got it back from grading. Like, so I'm looking at it here and being like, "What happened?
Yeah.
How did it go down?"
Yeah. I just haven't posted it yet. The other thing that I really like actually about having these 2 PMGs now, they're both copy number 39 of 50. And wow. I'm weird about numbers, so it's kind of like, whatever, let's do it. So I took the cash to downgrade my 97 championship and let it run. I had some cash left over and was able to get a 99 rubies too, which is the one that's out of 45 in basketball. So basically ended up getting a couple of really cool pickups that were high on my list just to move down a point.
That's wild.
Championship PMG. So I was happy with that. Number 2, I have the 97 Essential Credentials Future. So this one is out of 48. I'd love to add them now, but actually I think I'm partial to the Future ones. I love the looks of the pink and the red there. You've got this gorgeous acetate. It's almost, there's just different layers to the card too. I mean, you guys know EX 2001, EX 2000, just great looking cards. Even the base cards are gorgeous. I remember I pulled a honorary mention in terms of childhood pulls. I did have one box of these as a kid, and I pulled a Donyell Marshall Essential Credentials Future, numbered out of 42. So a few away from the Ray Allen one in that set. I moved that Donyell Marshall maybe 10 years ago. It's in Spinatron's collection now. It's on his Instagram wall. So that's kind of cool to see out there. But I got this 2-3 years ago. And I, as soon as I, landed on the price with the seller, I was making moves pretty quickly to get into that one and pay back my bank account with my wife. And then number 1, I have the red PMG. So this was my first really huge Ray Allen purchase. And this was shortly after the pandemic shut everything down. It was a PWCC purchase. So you can go back and look at the history of this sale. I really need to grade it. I've pushed off on it. Every opportunity that I've had It's usually about $500 or $700 to go grade it with PSA.
Hard to beat. That's an incredible top five. Like seeing all those, and we'll put them up on the screen for people who want to see like a higher res scan. Anything that you see yourself either in the near or maybe even distant future expanding into, or are you pretty content with where you are?
Yeah, I feel, I'm in a really great place with my Rail and PC. I've been able to get some great cards up in my collection, but definitely have a top 3 or top 5 wish list. The Essential Credentials now out of 33 is is the number one card that I would like to have someday. Just to pair it up with the future would be really sweet. I have both of the 98 ones too. So I have the now 31 and the future out of 60 there. I also have that 90. I have the 96 EX2000 credentials in a BGS 7. I'd like to upgrade that one at some point. Maybe like a PSA 8. They're not going for too crazy right now. So I'd like to get into one of those. And then I also have the credentials from the 99 set, the now and future there as well. So that would, if I can get this, the 97 credentials now out of 33, that would complete the full 90s credentials run. That'd be pretty cool. 24 karat gold, like we kind of talked about before, that's high on my list too. And, if I could lock in the previous sale, the PSA 6, I would do it tomorrow. So anybody knows where one is, let me know. And then Zan, you're number 5 on the list. The 97 rubies out of 50 with Reggie Miller is a sweet one too. I know a couple of guys who have some slabbed in PSA authentic. I don't know if they're going anywhere anytime soon. But that would be another big one. I have a few smaller ones I'm trying to get into as well, like a Noise Boys. I'd like to get a solid grade of that card. And then I cannot find a 99 SPX Radiance. So talked about the Spectrum 1 of 1, but I had not been able to find a Radiance out of 100 in good condition. I've been looking for 8 or 9 years. So wow. Anybody listening, let me know. And then there's a really cool one. Again, Skybox Apex, they have the extra parallel, which is out of 50, and that's kind of just like a refractory sort of finish to it as well. Not as insane as the extreme 1 of 1, but that'd be a fun one to have. But yeah, I don't see myself realistically. Let's say any of these 1 of 1s that we've talked about became available. I think even the 98 Ultra Masterpiece 1 of 1 sold maybe sometime last year. It was golden maybe, or PWCC. But that was never a card I could realistically go after. I'd just have to consolidate too much to make that happen. So I'm happy with, the cards that I've kind of targeted and still think there's room to grow. And it's been a really fun run. And, there's probably other cards in my PC that I'd, move first in order to get into Rail and stuff.
Well, that's a great list. If you guys are listening out there and you can help Sal with his pursuits, please reach out to him at Sal Has Cool Cards on Instagram. Sal, we really enjoyed this. Thanks for joining us, and hopefully we'll catch you in the future.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me. This is really fun. I'm happy to come on anytime again and talk more 90s cards, as always.
All right, man. Take care.
All right, see you guys.
Well, that was very insightful. It was good to have Sal on to talk about his Ray Allen collection. And again, if you do have something that you think he might be interested in, please reach out to him directly. Next week is the National. I will be there in attendance. I don't necessarily have a specific list that I'm hoping to find. Last year, I found 2 cards that were big ones for me to cross off. So I have a lot on my list. I'd be happy with 1 or 2. Since you're not going into the National, what are you going to be doing?
I plan on just watching eBay and watching some of the auctions that'll be ending probably next week and trying to snipe some while everybody's paying attention to tables. I'll be watching my computer and phone. It is a good time. Anybody that's not going to National, it's a good time usually to find some bargains and things like that. I do plan on continuing to go to every National I can while they're in Chicago next year. So I'll be back next year, but this time I'll just be watching eBay.
It's a good strategy. So yeah, if you guys are not going to the national, definitely check your auctions. You might be able to get some good deals. I remember last year there was a couple that I saw in while I was at the national. If you are going to the national, feel free to reach out to me. You want to meet up? If not, no worries either. We will be having an episode next week, just with scheduling and everything because of the national. We don't know exactly what topic it will be, but it will be out on Thursday as always. And so we appreciate you joining us for this episode, and we will see you next week.